Welcome to Seggs Talk Radio, a podcast that explores kink and sex through candid and curious conversations. Join me and expert guests in exploring taboos and unpacking what it means to be sex and kink positive. Go check out our new website, sextalkradio.com. That is SEGGS talkradio.com. And I hope you enjoy the episode.
Well, the even funnier one is when I'm stripping and guys are like, "Are your tits real?" And I'm like, "They're real expensive."
Yeah.
And I had one client in a private room. He was already in the room with me. And he was like, "Oh, so they're not really yours." And I was like, "Is that really a Rolex?"
I bought them. Really yours?
Yeah, because I bought my tits.
In my body.
Exactly.
They're in my skin.
But aside from in my body, I'm like,
right.
These are my tits. Like, that's your Rolex.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Like, I bought them. They're mine.
Yes.
And like, yeah, I'm just like, I bought a new ass. I bought this. They're all mine.
This episode of Seggs Talk Radio is brought to you by the HUD app. The HUD app is changing the face of modern and casual dating by giving users a really fun and flirty interface. And also it has bedroom features where you can select all of the kinky and naughty things you're into and show those to potential future partners. I personally love using the HUD app, and I think it's a great system for finding kinky people near you. Go to hudapp.com/sextalk. That is HUDAPP.com/SEGGS talk TALK for more. Not everyone wants a purple sparkly dildo, so when Peep Show Toys reached out to me and sent me their line of the Solina hyper-realistic, body-safe, platinum-grade silicone dildos, I was super excited. When I say they are realistic looking, I'm serious. They are very hyper-realistic. They are soft on the outside, they are firm on the inside, and they have a suction on the bottom for hands-free play if that's what you are into. Go to peepshowtoys.com and use code SEX, SEGGS, for 10% off of your entire order. When I started optimizing my life around my menstrual cycle, everything changed for the better. That is why I love the Stardust app. It is far more than a period tracker. It is an entire hormonal health universe inside of an app. I've been using it for quite a while now, and what I love the most is the beautiful design. I love that I can share my cycle with a friend or with a partner. I get customized notifications, and I've learned so much about my cycle and about hormones. So wherever you get your apps, search for the Stardust app, and I look forward to your thoughts. Mia Lee, welcome to Seggs Talk Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am super excited to have you. My friend told me about you. She was like, you absolutely have to meet this woman and have her on. God. She's doing finance and is a sex worker. And I think for me, I've been really wanting to have like an escort on that's face out.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of us.
There aren't. And I totally understand the risk and the vulnerability of that. But you've been, ever since you were face out, you were out. So...
You know, it's funny. I am so out that like I've been an escort now for I guess like about 6 years and counting. And when I was a baby escort, I got some like random troll on Reddit like telling me that he was gonna like he knew who I was and he was gonna dox me. And I was like, bro, I'm so out. My old boss interviewed me on his podcast as Mia. Who are you gonna dox me to? Also, go for it. Like, I pay for PR, man. Like, this is free.
I feel like the people that threaten are like clients that you like blocked or so. Like it's like some weird jealous like man freak out thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, honestly, like at this point in my career, I think like my boyfriend checked and there were like 700 comments on a Wall Street Bet sub thread about how I'm a Chinese like MSS operative. And I was like,
what's MSS? Like government?
Ministry of Security Services. Oh, okay. So like that's their CIA. And I was like, I don't think...
What a cool undercover gig.
Yeah, right? I'm like, well, first of all, if I was a spy, I would pick a better cover than being a fucking hooker. I don't... Can I curse on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. For sure.
Yeah. So I would have picked a better cover than being a fucking high-profile hooker.
Yeah. But I like that they think that that's like a creative outlet to, you know...
Well, also, it's just like, the logic isn't logic. I'm like, dude, like, I am the ultimate capitalist. Like, I don't think the CPT pays very well.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not a patriot for this country, the one I was born in, or any other country.
Sure.
Like, I'm here to make myself rich. I'm here to make women rich. I'm here to make sex workers rich. Like, none of that aligns with being a fucking spy.
So tell everyone a little bit about your background, because you have a really interesting one.
Oh, thank you. So... I came to the country as a Chinese political refugee when I was 5. And I lived with my biological family for a short bit, and then I went into foster care. So for people who are not familiar with foster care, it is the system of indigent child care that we have in the United States in place of orphanages. So I bounced around like 5 foster homes and like a homeless shelter in between.
Wow.
Until I was about until I was 18 technically.
So going through middle school and high school?
Well, actually high school, because I skipped a couple of grades. So I finished high school when I was 16, not because I was smart, just because the last high school I was in, like, I don't know, the Bloods and the Crips like moved into upstate New York, and it was just like not a great situation. So like between the gang activity and the bad neighborhood, I was like, I need to graduate early and go to college.
I got early out as well. Drugs in my high school.
Yeah,
I had to get out.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's
high school's tough. It's a fucked up age, so I can't imagine the added layer of being in the foster care system.
Well, it's interesting because like now I feel like with woke culture, I'd be cooler, but back then it was not as cool. But yeah, I mean, it's like honestly, I felt lucky to be an indigent child in a developed country with civil society and social services and access to social mobility and all of that. Yeah. So I never really saw it as like a negative. If anything, it was just like, it was great for college essays. And then subsequently, when I went into finance, I was like, this is great for fundraising. Like, you know,
totally.
So I never saw it as a negative. I
use our struggles.
Well, I just always considered myself very fortunate. And so I went off to college when I was 16, and then I finished when I was 19. Again, not because I was smart. I was fucking broke. And my scholarship ran out, and my firm was like, do you want to start early? And I was like, bro, I don't have a choice.
So you were getting a finance degree and interning at a
I
firm?
got an accounting degree, and I was interning at a consulting firm.
Gotcha.
So, I spent my career as a forensic accountant and doing some bankruptcy restructuring.
Was that in the city in New York?
Yes, it was in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the epicenter of finance. So I moved here for my first career.
Yeah. I'm gathering that the finance fellows are interesting. I've encountered a lot of submissive ones, so that's been fun.
Yeah,
I'm into power dynamics, and it's like the Wolf of Wall Street, the movie, like these high power guys that want to be spanked and stuff. So it's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like in my limited experience as an escort, I would say maybe it's because my marketing to date has been very vanilla. Like the vast majority of my clients are pretty vanilla, but I'm obviously open to all kinds of whatever my clients are into that is safe and within my skill set. I'm super happy to accommodate. But I did find that probably like 90+% of my clients are very vanilla.
Totally.
And I don't mean that in any kind of negative way.
Yeah. Okay, so you started working at this firm, and were you working in finance for like 12 years? Is that right?
About 12 years if you count my internships. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what led to the switch?
I actually got sick. So I developed pretty acute depression and anxiety. And so I went on medical leave. And like even when I recovered, it just like adjusting to my new normal and assessing like resources and constraints and all of that, it became pretty obvious to me that it was going to be very challenging to maintain my mental health while working the hours and pace that finance requires of me. And it would be a disservice to myself, my firm, my clients for me to go back and try to make a flex schedule work. I mean, not that other people can't, but just in the line of consulting that I was in, I just didn't think it was going to be sustainable long term for me or my clients or my firm. Right. So I bowed out and I became an expensive hooker.
So also like I feel like the finance work trajectory, they just expect you to keep going more and more and working harder and harder. So like even if you went back, I feel like it would have been really difficult to find balance. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm honestly not sure to this day how much balance I have because I learned after I retired. I retired from finance that like apparently I just have like a terrible workaholism addiction.
Yeah, I feel you. Like when people ask me what my hobbies are, like I hate that question. I'm like, I like to work. I like to build shit. Like, like to do fun, kinky stuff. Like I see those as my hobbies. But yeah, I think work addiction it's a double-edged sword. I don't think it's always bad.
I agree. It's definitely like it has its upsides, but it also presents its challenges. Yeah. Because we all have our human limitations. And as we get older, especially, you find that you just can't crank out the hours and the pace that you did in your 20s. At least in my case, I can't. So,
yes. Well, I think what's cool about your story is really flipping the narrative of sex work. And even hearing you say, like, my mental health was struggling. I left finance and I went to sex work to find less mental health struggle, whereas I think a lot of modern day society is going to assume that your mental health would only get way worse doing sex work. And I think that that's really a cool narrative to flip, because it's not true. It's just...
Well, it's not universally true. I mean, I don't think that the stigma that our industry deals with helps at all.
Right.
That being said, if we just look at the industry as one that has relatively lower barriers to entry than other jobs that pay as well as it does, I think like you are going to find people who are survival workers. But the issue is not the sex part of the work. It's the issue is the economic hardship, right? So I gave an interview to a reporter, I don't know, one of the financial outlets. I want to say like Business Insider or like Yahoo Finance or something like that. And she asked me to tell her about the start of my career. And I assumed that she was referring to the start of my first career in finance.
Sure.
And so my publicist is usually on mute on these interviews. And the only time in the 2.5 years that I worked with her, she ever interrupted me was during this answer, because I started answering the question on behalf of my first associate year in my consulting job. And I was like, oh, well, it was really challenging. I was 19 when I started, and I worked really insane hours. My manager was an asshole. My mental health was in the toilet. I drank too much. Sometimes I worked until 4 o'clock in the morning. One time I thought about driving my car off the Queensboro Bridge, but then I realized I might just get paralyzed and not die. And so like this went on for maybe about 90 to 120 seconds before my publicist, apparently she had fallen out of her chair because she was laughing. And like, so
it's
she
like, this is not sounding good for sex workers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she wanted to clarify, right?
Yes.
And she was like, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to clarify that Mia's talking about her finance career and not her sex work career. And the reporter was understandably like very confused, because the reporter had gotten my bio and so she had some background that I had started as a high-end escort, that I had never been a street-based sex worker. So she was very confused by this answer.
Totally.
And I was like, my publicist was like, I just want to clarify that Mia's talking about her first analyst year in finance and not walking the blade on Livonia Avenue. And the reporter was like, oh my God, thank you for clarifying. I really was confused. I thought I missed something in her bio.
Sure.
But I think that like that reaction and the fact that it went over my head is probably just like, it's telling of, I guess, my biased as it may be opinion about sex work versus other types of work. Like, so of course I had a great experience coming into sex work, because I came in with a level of intellectual capital, financial capital, privilege, business skills, all these other things, right?
Yes.
And so my takeaway from that and just my work and life experience in general is that like being a survival anything worker sucks. It doesn't matter
what
if
does
it's sex
survival
work or
mean
not.
Exactly?
Well, so I think the answer I gave this reporter was like, well, I wasn't happy in my first job, but I needed the money. And I was like, I don't think most people are working 85 hours a week because they don't need the money.
Right.
Right. So survival to me just means that you have to do what you were told in this job, and you don't have many or any better options to get a job that would make you happier, more satisfied, work less hours, whatever that means to you, make more money. Like just starting my career at 19 on Wall Street, like first of all, I chose finance because I was like, I'm broke. I need to not be broke.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a very logical choice based on my skill set. And yeah, so to me, that was my first and hopefully only ever survival job. So of course, when I went into sex work, I had this financial runway. I had business skills. I had all of these things going for
business.
Me. Yeah. And
you're running a marketing business.
Exactly. And so like I could afford to break things and fail and experiment. And like I think my first 2 photo shoots were completely unusable. And it took me like maybe 2 months to get my first client because I didn't want to work my way up from lower rates. Like, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anybody. Like all I knew was what research I could find.
Right. Oh, wow. You didn't have any type of mentorship there, or you didn't have any friends that were escorts?
I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't know anyone. And I also just like, I didn't feel comfortable like reaching out, and I didn't even know if whoever I got help from would be a good fit for me. Like, and yeah. So I mean, I just figured it out, and I was very fortunate that it worked out, and I love it, and and I'm very happy, and then it spawned all of these other opportunities.
Was there nervousness at first when you first started seeing clients?
No.
Okay.
I'm also wired a little bit differently, so
I think so.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that there's so many taboos related to it that, I mean, for the sex work that I've done, I personally kind of get off and enjoy the taboo nature of those things. But I still think that there can be a lot of fears that do come up for many women starting out. not knowing how to maybe vet somebody or how to accept payment. Like there are just so many logistics.
Well, I think that a lot of those fears that women have are fears that women have just living in the world that we live in. And I have a unique set of circumstances and skills that just make those concerns null and void for me. And I'm very fortunate to have those skills and circumstances.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for somebody getting into it?
So I have the same boilerplate response when people ask me for advice about getting into sex work, which is that on advice of counsel and in our current legislative environment, I do not give advice about getting into sex work.
Okay. So on that note, what are you building now?
So last quarter, I launched a registered investment advisory firm.
Amazing.
And it is marketed to adult entertainers, so the entire adult industry, right?
What does that include for those that don't know?
So I would say we market to everyone from cam girls, porn performers, to strippers and escorts and dominatrixes. Like my chief investment officer and my chief operating officer, they come from a traditional Wall Street portfolio management equity research background, and they were very successful, I guess still are, in that world. So when they approached me, like my company, Mealy Financial, even though it's called Mealy Financial, it wasn't my idea. And I'm very honest about that. It was my co-founder's idea. And so when they approached me and they wanted to do a RIA or a registered investment advisor with me, I was really, really honored and like honestly a little bit surprised because they're both equity people. And I was like, you want a credit girl to raise a fund? Like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, I think they were like, look, we did the research and like the adult industry is like a $7.5 billion industry, counting conservatively. And it's unsaturated and this
totally unsaturated. People don't want to touch it. Yeah. There is a lot of gray area.
Well, it's interesting because what I've noticed in my limited time in getting my arms around the industry, the vendors, the players, the individuals, is that we already have very strong tech talent. And the adult industry has for a long time been at the cutting edge and the frontier of a lot of tech developments. And we're seeing like pretty decent advocacy legal services coming into the industry because people are passionate about it, right?
Yes.
But the financial services within our industry are atrocious.
Yeah.
And
I've Googled it and been like, wait, where do we go?
Yeah. And it's like, I think some of the worst stories I've heard were scams and outright criminal behavior. And then a little less bad than that is professional negligence, right? So people who either aren't licensed or should not have their licenses anymore because of the professionally negligent services they have charged sex workers for. And then
are you talking about just investing or beyond that? Like also tax filing and accounting?
All of it. Tax filing, investment advice. I get an email or DM. Well, my DMs are locked on social media for compliance purposes, but I'm in like a few sex worker chats and groups, and I have a lot of friends in the industry. But I would say like probably every 2 to 3 days, I get some kind of inbound about a sex worker who was sold a financial product she didn't understand. For instance, like life insurance, right? It's like, why are you selling whole life insurance to somebody who has no dependents, right? Like that's not an appropriate financial product to sell somebody.
Sure.
And it was sold to the sex worker as like, this is going to be a good investment. And on a risk-adjusted basis, because I happen to know this person and she's my friend, it's not an appropriate investment that I would, as a licensed financial advisor, recommend to this person.
Right.
So that's, in my opinion, pretty clear professional negligence.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories of CPAs who actually have licenses and, in my opinion, should not have licenses, who have charged my colleagues to either, like there's one CPA firm that I keep hearing stories, and I won't name them because I don't want to get sued, but they, and it's happened to multiple sex workers who like make pretty good money. So you would think that for the amount that they're paying, they would get pretty good services, but no.
Right.
So there's one CPA firm that they've told several of my colleagues, oh, well, like the fees that you paid us were like, you didn't tell us to file your taxes, so we just didn't file your taxes for 5 years. And these girls have come to me being like, well, I feel stupid because I feel like I didn't know better and this was my fault. And I'm like, it's not your fault. You hired
what you're
someone.
Paying for.
Yeah, you hired someone to file your taxes. You even have the email documentation that they were supposed to file your taxes. You told them to file your taxes. And they were like, well, how could I not know that they hadn't filed my taxes? And I'm like, because you do not have an accounting degree and license, right? Like, this is absolutely not your fault. But people tend to blame themselves. And I find that so unfortunate.
Especially in these spaces, in these industries.
Yeah, and the unfortunate reality is, like, a lot of sex workers, even if you're doing a legal form of sex work, like porn, right? Like, we're just so used to financial discrimination and being talked down to and stigma that people don't report professional misconduct. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
But other people don't.
Well, I mean, it's, with the sex work space, it's scary. It's confusing of, well, what could put somebody in jail, which I just feel like there's a lot of confusion about.
There's so much confusion.
And then it's like, I started OnlyFans like a month and a half ago, and I was looking for a new accountant because it's like, I don't really feel like bringing my vanilla accountant into the, like, I want to be able to be super transparent and vulnerable with like what I'm doing and how I'm making money with somebody, but it's hard to find that person. And I think that when stuff is kind of, there's already shame and secrecy attached to a trade, it's really hard to find trusted resources. And I mean, it's great what you're doing because we need it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think that there's just so much intellectual, creative, and economic potential within our industry. And
Definitely.
Most of us are women, femme presenting, some iteration of that. And I think that, so I'm admittedly biased in this opinion that the vast majority of the issues that plague the adult industry are economically driven. And so if we can move the needle on financial, not just literacy, but financial independence and empowerment and all of that, and wealth building and passive income, then we can move the needle on the overall experience and lives and happiness and safety of sex workers.
Yeah.
So that's why I started my company. And we put a lot of effort into making it like competitively priced and bringing, I guess, I'll go back a little bit. So I started doing pro bono work in the adult industry probably right after I started. I was just like hanging out on Sex Workers Only Reddit, and people had all these like taxes.
Yes, those are the main questions I see.
So I will clarify that I am a CPA, but I don't do taxes. So it might surprise listeners and you to know that the majority of CPAs do not actually do taxes.
Okay.
I
mean,
say,
it
like,
doesn't sound like a fun job. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think to some people it is fun, right? And if you want a recommendation, I'm super happy to make one. There is a tax firm that I recommend very, very highly, and they do specialize in, they specialize in, they'll say like spicy clients, right?
So I think I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, can I just say it on air? Or So
if you are watching or listening to this, you're probably interested in sex and or kink and are curious about finding new partners to explore things with. However, it can be difficult to find those people. The thing I love about the HUD app is that it's more than just an app. They have a community, a podcast, and a ton of education. And inside of their app is a bedroom feature, so you can select all of the things you're interested in, all of the things you want to try, all the things you don't want to try, and that can be shown to potential future partners. So to learn more, go to hudapp.com/sextalk. That is hudapp.com/sextalk, SEGGSTALK. Look, I am a vibrator girl through and through. However, I think it's really fun and important to bring in an element of penetration to solo or partnered play. That is why I'm excited to share with you guys the Solina line of hyper-realistic dildos brought to you by Peep Show Toys. They are a line of 3 different sizes of super realistic dual density silicone dildos. Not only do they feel and look extremely realistic, but on the inside you have a thicker, more dense silicone, so it really does feel like a real erection. Get 10% off of your entire order at peepshowtoys.com using code SEX, SEGGS. My entire life changed when I started tracking my hormones and my menstrual cycle more closely. That's what I love about the Stardust app is it's far more than a period tracker. It is an entire hormonal health universe inside of an app. It is beautifully designed. It is fun. It is hilarious. And it is extremely educational. It has helped me redefine a relationship with my cycle that makes it much more lighthearted. And it's extremely helpful as you go through the month. Wherever you download your apps, go and search for the Stardust app, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
My recommendation is The Only Consultant. So the company is run by a woman named Catherine Studley, who I was shocked, honestly, in a very good way that she had no experience in sex work before starting her company because her company is so well tailored to our industry. Like so much so that she does sensitivity training with her new employees to make them like basically literate in our industry from a tax perspective, but also so that new clients who come in and existing clients are always comfortable talking to her staff.
That's
right.
So great.
Like so she's taken the extra step.
Yes.
And like her company has licensed CPAs working for them. So they're properly credentialed, and I have rarely, if ever, heard anything negative in terms of feedback about her company. And I had the honor of sharing a platform with her at XBiz LA where we spoke together.
Fun.
So I've spent some time with this person, and I am very sold, right? Like, so if I wasn't a CPA and didn't do my own taxes, I would go to Catherine. Like, I recommend her so highly. And it's difficult because I've had a lot of sex workers come to me and they're like, hey, I've had so many bad experiences with CPAs. Can I just pay you? And I'm like, I'm honored and flattered.
Yeah.
That being said, that's not a business I want to be in.
Definitely.
So yeah, I recommend the Only Consultant like very highly.
I know we're gonna get questions about that, so I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah,
I've had a brief
met
conversation with her.
Yeah, I've met her. I've spoken with her, and if I did not do my own taxes, I would hire her. Yeah.
So can you explain to me, because I'm also at a similar education level, of like what it is you would do for a client?
Sure.
Yes.
So I have to give the disclaimer to make my lawyers happy that anything I say on a public broadcast does not constitute financial advice, and my company assumes no liability for any investment decisions made based on what I say on a public broadcast. With that out of the way, so my company, what
I need a bunch of money? Would I need like a bunch of money saved up?
It depends on what a bunch of money means to you. So we are we serve retail clients, meaning like we don't need our clients to be accredited investors. So I took an extra licensing exam to be able to serve retail clients. And so our investment minimum is $1,000.
Oh.
And most of our clients invest more than that. Sure. And they have like just a monthly deposit set as like their long-term savings. Okay. And so it's like other investment advisory firms in the sense that I always told my colleagues and my friends that I would never take a penny from my colleagues in my industry until I can sell my friends and my community a service of such high quality that one, I would buy it as a financial professional who works for the top consulting firms, because I'm sick of people selling our industry shitty services at above market prices.
Yes.
And two, our fees are very competitive, and we made it that way for a litany of reasons, including but not limited to my co-founders and I are all Asian and we're fucking cheap. But also just going to market with something, like I wanted to be part of the problem, not the solution. So I'm not going to come into this space and profit off of my industry without delivering, in my opinion, very competitive value for what we're charging our clients. So what we do for clients, like let's say hypothetically, like you were a new client and you filled out the sign up form on our website, you would open an account and our custodian would ask you like a short, like maybe 10, like a series of KYC or know your customer questions. Okay. And you would answer them. And then we would send you a supplemental questionnaire after you funded your account, because some people open accounts and it takes them a while to fund it, or maybe they change their mind, and that's totally fine, right?
Funding meaning minimum investment of $1,000.
Yeah. So minimum investment of $1,000
with a monthly withdrawal or deposit. I mean,
it's not necessary, but most of my clients do set a monthly deposit so that they can like put it on autopilot and they don't have to think about it.
Yes.
So, let's say you open the account and then you funded it with whatever amount of money you fund it. Like, I mean, I've had clients put in like $200,000 at a time. I've had clients put in $1,000. Like, it doesn't really matter to me.
And that's the kind of range that the adult industry space has in terms of income and like passive income. Like, I
have clients who make less than $50,000, and I have clients who make seven figures, and I have clients who have a net worth of everything in between. Yeah. And we are structured and scaled to serve all of those clients.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of it. And I'm especially proud of my chief investment officer. So my chief operating officer prefers to remain anonymous for now, so I'm just going to call him R. But my chief investment officer is a gentleman named Jay Chung, who's like a really, really heavy hitter in finance. Cool. So there's a company called Naveen Investments, which is now a subsidiary of TIAA CREF. But prior to that, they were taken private by Morgan Stanley maybe 10 or 15 years ago at a valuation of $5.75 billion. So my chief investment officer or CIO, Jay, he was one of like the 6 or 8 key people on that deal. Wow. So when Naveen was taken private, so he was one of the people that built Naveen as a subsidiary of Tradewinds, which is a really big hedge fund out in LA. And so he retired during that, like after that first take private, and he's just been trading his personal account and managing his own money.
Can't wait to be rich.
Yeah, right? Well, that means different things to different people, which we got to.
Totally. We can.
But Jay came out of retirement to be my chief investment officer.
Wonderful.
So like I will put my team's resumes up against some of the best portfolio managers and institutional investors at like Blackstone and Goldman Sachs.
That's very cool.
And we're competitive on that level.
Yeah.
And our fees are a fraction of what the rest of the industry is charging, because I think that one of the really cool things that's happening with technology and democratization of wealth building and access to all of these tools with like, just progress, I guess, if you will, is that the fees have come down and all of these things have become more accessible to ordinary people. And I wanted to be a part of that, right? It would have been a lot easier, given my experience and the licensing requirements, for my colleagues and I to just do like a fund for rich people, basically, right? Like I wouldn't have to get any licenses.
Yes.
I could just use my CPA license or not. But that wasn't really, one, addressing the entire addressable market of the adult industry. So like it wouldn't necessarily scale as well. It might not, right?
Yeah.
And two, like I think that I am very passionate about doing something and making money in a way that is sustainable and good for my community. So with that mission, I wanted to have a retail investment advisory firm that could help not everyone, but a lot more people.
Yeah. I'm very passion-led in the same way. Like I was working on a business idea with a friend like a year ago, and we got like 3 weeks into it. And I knew the money could be there, but the passion was not. Like I have to be excited about it. I know it has to serve people. And for me, I like it to, dance on some taboo nature, whether it's STI testing or sex work. Like I want people to come to whatever I build and be like, ooh, like it's a little unique. So I think that's really powerful what you said. Like you could have very much easily built something different for rich people to make them richer, for you to get rich. And
I'm already a rich person. That's easy for me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But you chose this, and I think that's just really fucking cool.
Well, this also has, I think that something that I disagree with without being critical of, that I see a lot of my colleagues in the adult space do, is they launch like passion projects, right? With not enough consideration as to what the financial runway for that is, and whether or not this is an economically viable opportunity, or whether this should be a nonprofit. And if it's a nonprofit, what's your fundraising plan, right? So I think that whether or not you agree with capitalism, we all live in that system.
Yes,
and
we do.
As someone who grew up poor, I've thrived in that system.
Yeah, same.
And we're very fortunate to be those exceptional people. But capitalism does reward exceptionalism. Not everybody can be exceptional. Yeah. And so that was one of
not everyone wants to take risks.
Right. And not
like my risk threshold is real high. Like, let's just do it.
Right. And like certainly I think a combination of luck, skill, aptitude, and resources drives that risk tolerance. Right. So I have part of our supplemental investor questionnaire for new clients is we assess their risk tolerance. Right. Like, so I have some clients who are very comfortable with risk, and other clients who, despite being in a financial position where I think it would be appropriate for them to take more risk, they're emotionally not comfortable with taking more risk. So that's okay. I mean, we're very honest with our clients that like it's a basic financial and economic principle that risk and return are positively correlated.
Cool.
So if you as a client do not want to take on more risk, like we just simply can't expose you to more potential upside. But we can also structure your investment portfolio to lose less money in the event that, things go sideways, right? Because things do go sideways. There's a phrase that we use in finance, and it goes like, markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay liquid. And that's really true, right? Like, I mean, as talented as my team is, it is not even legal pursuant to our investment license to give investment guarantees of returns. Like, that's not legal. And like, I would tell adult entertainers or just anyone who's not a financial professional, anyone who is not familiar with investing, that if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Right. So if someone is like, hey, I'm going to guarantee you 100% return next year, like, no, how are they doing that?
Right. So things for sex workers to be on the lookout for, I think, too, for red flags.
Yeah.
You said they get targeted with a lot of scams and stuff.
Yeah. But I think that it's not unique to our industry, right? It's unique to entertainers, athletes, lottery winners, a lot of people who are in this new money situation where you are making and maybe have for the first time in your life more money than you've ever seen, more money than your family has ever seen.
Right.
And it presents its own challenges. And one of the reasons I started my company is because in my pro bono work for the last 5+ years, have seen so many really, really talented, intelligent, amazing women like make an incredible amount of money, retire 5 years later with very little to show for it.
Retire from sex work, right?
Yeah. And just retire with very little to show for it. And I think that's so unfortunate, right? And
Definitely.
I'm not going to be able to help everyone, but
yeah,
I would like to move the needle on that.
Absolutely. So when you talk about an investment portfolio, since this is not my world, you are taking this person's monthly investment and you are investing in stocks for them?
Stocks, bonds, and cash equivalents based on what my team and I determine is appropriate for that client given their goals, their constraints, and their resources, their income, their tax bracket. We account for all of these things, basically.
And then there's like monthly updates or reporting or yearly?
So I don't want to give a wrong answer on this. I believe there is either some kind of monthly or quarterly reporting that we are required to do, which my team does.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a brokerage or a bank account that you have with any bank.
A statement and an account.
Yeah, you can look up.
It.
You can open the app and open a website and look at your balance and your portfolio and our performance anytime. And I think like we are required to send you periodic disclosures.
Sure.
But even like between those times, like you could go in and look up what we're doing, what you're invested in, what your breakdown is.
That makes sense.
So most of our client portfolios are allocated between cash equivalents, so things like money markets, high yield savings, like very, very safe things that basically return you roughly inflation, and bonds or like credit instruments, right? And stocks. So if a client has a longer investment horizon, meaning they want to leave their money in for a longer period of time, and they have a higher risk tolerance, we're going to do a heavier equity or stock allocation and a lower bond and cash equivalent allocation, and vice versa. I have a client who put in the minimum was like, this is for my home purchasing fund in the next, I don't remember what the timeline was, but let's just call it less than 10 years. And so for that, we allocated more credit or bond investments because they return less, but they're safer.
Definitely. This is helpful. Like, it's really hard for me to understand these things, but for some reason, the way you're explaining it, I'm like getting a visual of it and like thinking about the app. It's very helpful.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I think a lot of people that are listening, regardless of their interests, like, I think this is really important, like basic financial literacy for people to understand and for women to understand. I mean, what, women couldn't get credit cards until the 70s, like without a man. Like, I mean, it's just like we've got some catching up to do. So.
Well, I think that women are also socialized to be altruistic, including but not limited to with our money. So women are significantly statistically more likely to live in poverty in retirement. And there are so many reasons for that, right? But part of that is driven by the fact that we are socialized to care about everyone but ourselves. And I tell my friends, my clients, myself, like I tell women in general, like take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
You can't help anyone if you are impoverishing yourself to help everybody else, right? Like it's just you're not doing yourself or anyone else any favors. I have a close friend who was just so empathetic that she was giving away so much money to people who she felt needed it more than her, that she couldn't afford to pay her taxes. And I'm like, that's not helpful for anybody.
Right.
Like the way I like to frame it on a global scale is Bill and Melinda Gates have not cured world hunger. So is you giving your last dollar that you should be saving for your retirement to a poorer person really moving the needle? Or should you take care of yourself?
Yeah, well, I'll be vulnerable for a second here. I actually did one of my viral accounts that I created was called the Money Healing Club. And I went through a big shift of my own relationship with money and actually created a community for women to talk about it. And moving to this fucking city, I'm kind of encountering that again. I think it can be really hard. I've been self-employed mostly my whole life. And I don't know if you have any advice for me and the other self-employed people listening of like, I'm also very ADHD and have addiction issues. So this all ties into like, I get paid a chunk of money and I feel like the self-control it takes to set aside 25% in another account to pay taxes quarterly or annually is really hard. And I don't think enough people talk about that. Like I'm willing to gladly say that I really struggle with that self-control. But I encounter that a lot with self-employed people.
So first of all, you're not alone. And second, I would say you're already ahead of the game because you know that you have to pay us.
At least I know, yeah.
Well, I mean, like so being aware of your own like what you're good at and what you're not good at and what you struggle with is already halfway there. But also I would say so many people who are self-employed, not just sex workers, but people who are self-employed, don't even know that they have to pay estimated taxes.
Yes, every quarter, friends.
Yeah. I complain about it every quarter.
You can get penalties if you don't.
Right. And here's the thing. Those penalties, well, they are a lot now because they're pegged to the Federal Reserve Fed funds rate. They're pegged to Fed prime interest, right?
Okay.
Or sorry, cut that out. Fed prime. They're pegged to the interest rate set by the Federal Reserve. So back when interest rates were like 0, your penalties weren't a lot. Nowadays, I mean, I don't know exactly what the number is, but I want to say it's somewhere between like 6 and 8%, maybe even higher. So people who owe tax penalties in 2021 when, interest was like the interest on that maybe 2-3%. But nowadays, you're definitely paying a much higher penalty on your unpaid estimated quarterly taxes.
Yeah, it's really hard to have that discipline. And I mean, I think one thing that's been helpful for me is having a bookkeeper and really understanding like business expenses. Because like even the podcast, it takes a lot to run it. And that all helps me out in the end, like making sure that I'm really keeping track of everything.
And look, if it makes you feel any better, when I did bankruptcy restructuring,
oh God,
you
saw it all.
Well, I didn't see it all. But I think that there were multi-million-dollar companies where maybe like it's family run or the CEO or whoever it was is like, hey, I don't know why we need to declare bankruptcy. We're making $10 million a year. And I'm like, yeah, and you're losing 12.
Wow.
Because you're counting your revenue and not your margins. And you're not properly counting for expenses and liabilities and taxes and all of these things, right?
Yes.
So I do these, like I have a YouTube channel that my content creator is revamping because the production quality is not.
It's a process.
Yeah. I mean, so I think like, and that's something that on my end, I've struggled with my entire career in entertainment and even in finance. Like there were things that I just wasn't good at on the presentation aesthetic level that mattered. So I would outsource that. Yes. And now as an entertainer and as an investment manager, I still outsource those things, right? Just like you outsource your bookkeeping and that is a really good decision. But in terms of feeling the compulsion to spend, I don't think that's unique to you or unique to even self-employed people. Like, I remember growing up poor, like to the point where homeless shelters and all of these things, right? And the first bonus check I got, I think I bought a bag or something silly like that, right? So I did it too.
Well, when you're in restriction, on the other side of restriction can often be binging or overcompulsion. And I've just done a lot of work on this in therapy personally, but like, it's really hard. And I think something that's been challenging for me financially and my whole career is that it's always been restriction and then huge chunks of income and then kind of catching up on things. And like, it's hard as a self-employed person to feel the smooth consistency. But I think that's all really, really helpful advice. And, you were talking about expectations to spend too. I think as women, there's a standard of how we look and beauty and how we present ourselves that is expected, especially if we're public facing. And that costs a lot of fucking money. You've talked a little bit about that yourself.
Yeah. Business Insider ran a piece on me like a couple of Februaries ago where they added up every cosmetic procedure I had.
Ooh, tell us the tea.
It was, I mean, I think they were able to verify maybe 57,000 of it, but like I gave them a number that was closer to like 87,000. And I don't regret, I couldn't write any of it off of my taxes. But I don't regret any of it. They were like actually, I would say they were all investments in my future earning potential. And I'm very comfortable with that spending. Like I've had
Are you comfortable sharing some of the work you've had done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had breast implants, liposuction. I'm wearing makeup now because we're in a studio, but day to day I don't wear makeup to see clients.
I heard you say that, and then I went to look to your page. I'm like, oh my gosh, your
I don't
skin is flawless. Like,
oh, thank you. It's so I wear these like Unabomber looking Chinese face coverings that are very common in Asia, but in New York it's not. Oh, sorry. In New York, that less common, but and then I get like laser facials and injections and like literally everything under the sun. So I remember, I think there was a reporter that wrote about my Mirror Dry underarm sweating cessation treatment. Oh. And subsequently 2,500 comments followed on Yahoo Finance about how I don't shower between clients because I had this procedure. And I was like, I absolutely shower between clients. The reporter just printed something that I did not say. And my publicist was like, they won't issue a retraction. I was like, all right.
I mean, even if you didn't, like, fuck off. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I didn't, I would own up to it, right? But
Yeah.
I do, and I'm like, just because I had this procedure doesn't mean that I don't shower during whatever. That's not the point. So the point being that I think I've always been very optimization minded, and
Love that.
so
that's how I'm going to justify all of my next injections.
well, I mean, it really depends, right? It depends on how much money it is, how much money you can afford to spend, like what your priorities are. So I have an ex-girlfriend who loves doing makeup, and she was very offended when I offered her plastic surgery so that we could be on time to anything ever in our lives. Yeah, that didn't land well. But I mean, from my bias,
You're like, look at the time saving potential here. Yeah. No, I'm all about efficiency.
Right.
I am an efficiency.
That didn't land well. If you're dating a woman, do not offer her plastic. That is not a thoughtful gift. Like, do not be me. But then, like, when I had that conversation, I told some of my clients about this, and they were like, "Are you kidding me? That's such a generous offer." I'm like, "I know.
Yeah.
If you told me that I could go see your plastic surgeon and you would take care of it, I'd be like, I'm
On
free
my
tomorrow
way.
at 1, 2, 3, and I will cancel my client at 4 because that is such a generous offer." My ex-girlfriend did not take it that way.
I mean, I got liposuction a few months ago, which, by the way, the recovery was kind of fucked up.
Really?
Was yours?
No, actually, mine was very easy. I'm really great. Like, I have a wonderful surgeon.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, girls will tag their hair and makeup artist on Instagram, and I tag my plastic surgeon.
By so-and-so, yes.
Yeah. It's, I think, like, there are a few of my recent posts, like, I wasn't wearing, like, makeup, even in some of my professional photo shoots.
Totally.
And I'm like, well, I don't have hair and makeup, but plastic surgery by Dr. Mentor Singh.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and he was like, oh, thanks,
I think
Mia.
people will probably ask you after this episode who you go to.
Oh, yeah. He's great. Highly recommend. Very sex worker
I got
friendly.
360, lipo 360. It
I
was
did that
just a
too.
lot. I don't know. I was just in like a really tight thing for multiple months, and it was just a bit more than I anticipated. But I saw it as an investment. I was like, I started this OnlyFans. I have more sexy naked photos happening. Like, you know.
You feel more comfortable. You don't have to think about it as much.
I feel sexier. I am happier.
Right. And it's like, so I think one of the things that like I keep telling my boyfriend, which I somehow don't have to explain to my girlfriend, which is like funny. But my boyfriend was like, baby, you look great. You don't need this. And I'm like, sweetie, please do not be a white man telling me how to run my business.
You are your business.
I am my business, right? But also, like, I've had civilian friends who, well-meaning, they were like, oh, like, you know, do you ever think about body dysmorphia? And I'm like, honey, I don't look in the mirror and go, I'm ugly. I look in the mirror, or really, I look at camera. Like, you know, when I'm on camera, I'm like, ooh, like, this could be optimized. Like, you know, this could be improved upon. This could be tweaked.
Yeah.
So I bought breast implants back in 2009 when I started in finance because I read in some econ journal that on average, women with larger breasts make about 20% more money. And I was like, well, that's an average, including like.
And that was far before sex work. Like, I love that you were just like, I love that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you think about that, that's an average, right? So that includes like.
I also want to fuck up guys in a boardroom and distract them. Like,
well, no, actually, that doesn't always work in your favor. But it's more that like, it's more that. So for me, my decision was really easy because I'm like, okay, that's 20% average. That includes like bank tellers who wear jackets, right? Like, so. In finance, your discretionary bonus can be like 10x your base in a really good year.
Wow.
So like that matters, right?
That was
like
worth
it fucking matters.
Absolutely.
And so I bought breast implants and then like, but I didn't get any of the other like stuff on my face or anything else because I was like, oh, diminishing returns, right? Because I'm always thinking about
it also
ROI.
hadn't gone as far yet. Like they hadn't perfected that stuff as much, I feel like.
Yes and no. It's just like the cost of the procedure relative to my recovery time, relative to the conversations that I would have to have about it when I was in finance. Like when I weighed my costs and benefits, like it just wasn't justifiable for anything other than the tits. But then when I became a sex worker, I got so many things done, like to the point where I had to get a new passport photo because my face wouldn't scan anymore.
So something else I heard you talk about was I think it was somebody complimenting your natural beauty. Which I laughed so hard this morning listening to that because like I've been talking about it a little bit on social lately of like, if I'm not wearing makeup, a guy being like, you are so naturally gorgeous. I'm like, honey, I have thousands of dollars of filler in my lips, my jawline. I have eyelashes. I have like, it's just what's kind of concerning though, is how many people are getting plastic surgery. And so this natural beauty standard is in like changing and the men have no concept of what natural is. Like, well, I don't know.
I mean, I guess I don't really like what's the problem with that? They never had a clue to begin with, right?
No, they don't have a fucking clue anyways. But just them thinking that the standard of beauty is now being raised. So a woman who has had zero plastic surgery is going to be like I don't know. I understood what you were saying and what I was listening to about of just being a little offended when somebody's like, you're so naturally gorgeous.
Well, the even funnier one is when I'm stripping and guys are like, are your tits real? And I'm like, they're real expensive.
Yeah.
And I had one client in a private room. He was already in the room with me. And he was like, oh, so they're not really yours. And I was like, is that really a Rolex? I bought them.
Really yours?
Yeah, because I bought my tits.
In my body.
Exactly.
They're in my skin.
But aside from in my body, I'm like,
right.
These are my tits. Like, that's your Rolex.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Like, I bought them. They're mine.
Yes.
And like, yeah, I'm just like, I bought a new ass. I bought this. They're all mine.
Yeah. So you mentioned a boyfriend and a girlfriend. Would you be comfortable sharing a little bit more about your exploration of being bisexual and polyamorous and what that's all looked like?
Sure. I wouldn't call it necessarily an exploration. I think that I have been told by clinicians and people who know what they're talking about that I'm just wired a little bit differently. So my default was never monogamy, just because that was a societal standard and that's the common relationship construct.
Definitely.
So I don't think I've ever been monogamous. I mean, I've agreed to monogamy for certain relationships, but that's my default state was not ever monogamous.
I understand.
I just never really, like, the cost benefit never really jived to me, right? It's like you have to choose one partner at the exclusion of everybody else. And for a lot of people, that makes sense, right? I think for a lot of people, because of jealousy, family structure, whatever, like, it makes sense. Religion. Yes. But for me, none of those things applied. And so I have a primary partner, and that's my boyfriend. And we live together. We live together. And then I have a non-primary partner, that's my girlfriend, and I'm on her health insurance.
I love that.
Yeah, well, her primary partner does not need her health insurance. He's an employee. So everyone agreed that it made sense for me to be on her health insurance.
Yeah. When did you first start dating women? So when you were
16,
young?
Maybe? Yeah. I don't remember, honestly. It's like...
Yeah. I have a lot of bisexual and queer listeners, and they like to hear kind of people's journeys.
I think I'm going to disappoint all of them because I didn't really have a journey. Like, I didn't have a journey coming out as a sex worker. I didn't have a journey being bisexual. Like, it was just kind of like...
Yeah. And have you ever encountered any complications or difficult conversations with partners and being a sex worker? Or you've just found people that are all in?
I've never had any difficult conversations because if I sensed a hint of whorephobia or closed-mindedness, like...
They're not your people.
Well, they may or may not be good people. I don't want to say that they're bad
your
people.
people.
Oh, they're not my people.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, that's not someone that I want in my life.
Right.
And that's just really easy. So, like, before I met my boyfriend, when I was dating, and I wanted to find a primary partner. Mm-hmm. So, like, you can't put that you're a sex worker on a dating app or they just deplatform you. And like, I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah,
right?
They don't want you to promo.
Well, yeah, but there's also legal liability for them, right? Because of laws like Fosta Sesta. So, like, they can't support that on their app, and I totally get it. So what I would do is back when I was chief financial officer of Petite Mort, I would say that I'm CFO of a magazine. Mm-hmm. And then when I met someone, I would immediately tell them that I'm a sex worker within the first, like, 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I didn't like the reaction, I would just leave.
Oh, you can gauge so much. I usually tell people virtually. Like, I don't even want to have to do it in person anymore.
So the only reason I didn't do it virtually was because I was concerned that they would then report me to the dating app.
Oh.
So that's why I told everyone in person.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and then I would, like, block them right away if I didn't, because we have to protect ourselves in this world that we live in. So I did that very systematically.
Yeah.
And, like, when I say I didn't like the reaction, I mean, like, it wasn't just like, oh, I don't really get that. Or you say, like, even if people ask me a stupid question, I'd be like, okay, well, I don't like stupid people. So, like, and I would just, I had a boilerplate script for everybody. I was just like, if I rejected somebody on a first date, like, within the first, whatever, half an hour, 15
Here's
minutes
the
sometimes.
text.
I didn't even have a text. I was just like, hey, I was like, hey, I really don't think we're compatible. I don't want to waste my time or yours. So I'm going to head out. But it was really nice to meet you and thank you for coming. And
boilerplate.
Yeah.
Copy and paste that. Mm-hmm. I struggle with delivering that in person versus later virtually. I think it's some fucking people pleaser female conditioning shit. It's hard for me.
But it's hard for, I would say it's hard for a lot of people. I mean, it's hard for both of my partners just have a lot more empathy than me. Well, like, everyone has more empathy than me, but
you are wired differently.
Yeah. I've never had empathy. I don't know what it's like.
Things don't faze you. Like,
well, things faze me, just not that thing.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I have this weird phobia of worms.
Okay.
So
a worm could phase her, you guys.
Dude, I can't walk through parks when it rains.
Ooh, well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
Pretty gross.
No, like I have
you
this
know,
like
we've all got our shit.
Yeah, it's my inexplicable.
I can't reject people in person. You couldn't see a worm.
It's okay. When we walk through Central Park, you'll look at the ground and I'll just look up. And if there's some annoying dude coming toward us, I got it.
Do you feel like the decade plus in finance contributed to the badass backbone that you have now?
No, I think it's the other way. I self-selected for that career because I thought I would be good at it.
Totally.
And I think like that is, especially the type of finance that I did.
Yeah.
It helps to be able to make very unpopular decisions, if you will. And people who are wired the way that I am wired tend to do very well in situations that involve chaos or disappointing people or that kind of stuff. We tend to do well in those situations. We tend to do well in high pressure situations.
Right.
We tend to do well at focusing on certain things when there's a lot of distraction. But then we're bad at like connecting with people, right? Or sometimes, depending on the situation.
Right.
Like I remember when I got into escorting, I saw that it was very common or popular to market like GFE, right? Like the girlfriend experience and I'm your safe harbor and let's have a real connection. And I knew immediately that I was like, this is not something that I want to do because it would be tremendously effortful for me to market this way. So I was
not as authentic for you, maybe, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, depends on how you define authenticity, right? So like is authenticity like a skill set that you might not enjoy or maybe you're okay at doing or you're good at doing because it's profitable? Or is authenticity like being who you really are? Or is it somewhere in between, right? For me, it's like all of the cost benefit considered, I decided to market how I market.
How do you market?
So I have a few taglines. One of them is you can take the girl off Wall Street, but you can't take the banker out of the whore.
Love it. Oh, I bet the finance guys love you here.
Yeah, I do have, I would say the vast majority of my clients are like executives and like hedge fund, private equity, like kind of stuff. So yeah.
What are your other taglines? I think of any of them.
Well, I used to use recovered banker turned professional girlfriend, but my clients recently have pointed out correctly that I'm not even in recovery. I have unrecovered. I relapsed so hard I took a freaking FINRA exam and started an investment firm. So that one's got to change.
Yeah, you have not recovered from Wall Street.
Yeah, like I fell off the bandwagon so hard that I burned the wagon, like threw a freaking grenade in it. So yeah, that one's got to go. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
But your overall marketing vibe is like
leans very heavily into my Wall Street background.
Okay.
Yeah. So I reverse engineered that based on an addressable market size and addressable market target, if you will.
Yeah.
So
everything is a strategy. I fucking love it.
Yeah. I don't, they don't always work, but I try. I think of everything intentionally.
I mean, I throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, you know, like how are you going to learn? How are you going to see what's working with like potential clients and, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I mean, I think that like from what I've gathered and in my experience in sex work, it's like, you know, yes, sex is a component of it. And there is a lot of chatting and there is often a lot of depth and authenticity that I experience, honestly, more than sometimes like real world shit and going on a vanilla date from an app. And so being able to market yourself as an intellectual, as somebody that can hold the conversation, talk about the business side of things, I think that's very appealing if it's true.
Yeah, so I think like, look, I'm not throwing any shade to entertainers in general who market something that is different than what they are. I think it's a strategy. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others.
Right.
But for me, like that just made sense to me for me to market the things that I'm actually into. And like I've had a lot of clients tell me that like that's a turn on for them, that I'm a lot like them, that I share their hobbies. I've always been a tomboy. So like I race my 911. I used to shoot guns competitively. I fought in Strike Force before UFC bought them. Like such a tomboy.
So much.
Well, no. It's just I'm just kind of like, I have a lot of like middle-aged white investment banker hobby.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean, even the way I unretired. So when I first retired from finance, I was like, I'm just gonna play golf and travel, and like
as a middle-aged white man would.
Exactly. Yeah. I
go to Florida.
So I didn't go to Florida because I don't like sun, but I had
can't on that skin.
Yeah,
with all the investments.
Oh Lord, no, I didn't make any of them then. I just still didn't. I never liked sun. So, or I don't like paying for aging, rather. But anyway, like, look, it's a Chinese thing, okay? So yeah, I mean, I remember like loading my golf clubs into my sports car and driving to the golf course, and like I was playing. First of all, I'm terrible at golf, like really, really bad, comically bad, to the point where like the reason I quit golf was because I didn't want anyone to sue me. And I was losing too many, like, not just golf balls. Like, I lost whole clubs. Like, my 9-iron is never to be seen again. Like, it's somewhere in upstate New York, and I have no idea where the fuck my first 9-iron went. Because I would just, like, I was like, maybe I do have anger management issues. Like, I would hit a bad shot. And, like, I mean, I remember the shot that I lost my 9-iron on. It was like, my golf ball went into one of those little ponds, and then my 9-iron just fucking followed it in a fit of rage. And I was like, okay, this is not good. So... yeah, I was playing golf, and like I'm playing the front 9, and I'm like, so I'm on my second hole. I picked up my ball twice. It's not going well. So I mean, like, do you play golf?
No.
So
you've lost me a little bit, but I can visualize a little bit.
Yeah. So I would say like a good golfer, like their scores, I don't know, like 85, 70, somewhere around there, right? Like I have. So with my handicap, I shoot like a 104 on a good day.
Wait, does that mean you're really good or
no? It's not like you want a lower score in golf.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So
no, it's
I'm really bad. So like between the clubs I lost in a fit of anger management and like the potential for injuring people given how bad I am, I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna quit because I'm a quitter. But actually, the real reason I quit is because right. Sometimes it helps to be a quitter.
Let's have a moment for the quitters, because if something's not fucking working, it's okay to quit. Whatever it is. Like, I'm very pro quitting.
It's efficient, right? And that's why you have several successful businesses, because you didn't just keep throwing good money at bad and resources at bad.
No. The things that work, in my experience with business, are things that take this life of their own. They become this, like, entity of their own. And I don't really know how to explain it, but, like, for me, the businesses I've had that have worked, I follow them more than I drag them behind me, you know? But yes, sorry to interrupt, but a moment for quitting.
A moment for quitting.
Permission to quit.
I am a quitter. Not when it comes to vaping. I tried to quit vaping a while ago. And
dude, we all have our vices. Mine's sugar.
Well, yeah, but do you become a raging bitch when you don't get sugar?
No, but I get kind of emo. I get like I have like cravings and must leave house to have sugar. Like it's pretty addicty.
Well, but so that's a horrible experience for you, but it doesn't lead people to buy you a candy bar and tell you that they need you to unquit because you're a raging bitch and no one wants to work with you. Right, which is what happened to me when I tried to quit vaping a few years ago. I was working for Penelope Dario at Petite Mort, and she brought me a vape. And she was like,
please pick this up again.
Yeah, she was like, I need you to unquit because you're not a quitter. And also you're a raging bitch and no one wants to work with you. And so that was the moment where I realized that like whatever detriment this is to my health, no matter what my doctor says, you know what's worse than having maybe bad lungs when I'm 60? Being broke, friendless, never getting laid, having no clients, and getting fired from my job. Like all of those things together, worse than pulmonologist judgment.
That's very funny.
So I unquit.
I unquit. So are you currently advertising and escorting as well?
I am still escorting. And
regulars.
Regulars. And also just like I get new clients through like media, social media. I mean, like I have clients who are like, oh, I read your profile in Business Insider 2 years ago and I'm finally in New York, right? So like
I heard you saying you were spending over $10,000 a month on PR was that about a year that you did that?
I want to say a little over 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's a huge investment.
Yeah. And it paid dividends and I got really good clients from it.
Yeah.
And I also got so my goal with that, which actually worked out sort of perfectly, is that
it's genius.
Oh, thank you. And so my hypothesis with that was that there's like a whole population of new clients to the industry, like people who don't know.
Paying for sex work?
New to escorting, I would say, right? Like
hiring escorts?
Yes. Like clients who have I got a ton of clients, many of whom are now regulars.
Yeah.
Yeah, who just didn't know that escorts like me existed. And now they're my regulars. Or like I even have people that I knew from my old finance career where like they learned that I am now an escort and they're like, hey.
Always liked you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been great. That business is really sticky and it was a great investment. And then the only reason I ceased PR is because I started to see like those returns started tapering off. And then I was like, okay, like no more PR for now.
Right. But I mean, those articles are still very out there. Like, I mean, when I Googled you, for some reason I got confused. And like when you were talking about making $34,000 in a week around the holidays, I thought that was put out in 2024. So like they're still coming around, you know,
Yeah.
which is the cool thing about PR and how it can kind of circulate on social media as well. Is I thought you were talking about this December. So it's like, you know,
no,
it
this
still
December I
comes
took a
around.
step back, but that's but
Yeah.
no, I mean it's also because I launched my company. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, like I mean, that's one of the things that I see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially sex workers who are more creative in their nature and skill set.
Yeah.
Just like don't budget both their time and their money when they launch new business ventures. Right.
Oh, I
so
need to take notes.
yeah, I mean, it's not criticism. It's just kind of like something that.
For sure.
So when I showed one of my colleagues who's really struggling with her, like, I guess her business that she was trying to use to retire from sex work. She asked me like how my co-founders and I launched MLF, and I was like, okay, well, like this is our timeline, this is our business plan, these are our cash flow models, these are our projections.
Right.
And she's like,
what?
Wow. Does every business do this? And I'm like, no, but most businesses probably should have some iteration of this. Now, we're really fortunate because like we're 3 finance bros and we know how to do these things, right? Like, so part of my job when I worked in finance is for people who are not familiar with finance, like, so I did bankruptcy restructuring and liquidation, which means have you seen the movie Pretty Woman?
Oh, love.
I had Richard Gere's job.
Fuck yeah.
So that's usually not how people think that's going to go.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the best way I explain it to someone who, like, people who are not familiar with finance. Like, I had Richard Gere's job. So, like, when your entire job is to, like, restructure and reorganize bankrupt companies and, like, make them profitable or sell off the segments or whatever it is.
Right. You're going to think through all that.
Yeah, like, it's your baseline MO to think about everything in terms of optimization, efficiency, addressable market size. Like, I'm a numbers girl.
Yeah. Love Pretty Woman. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Ever since I was a kid, I've always had these kind of fantasies about sex work. And I never want to glorify it either because there is a lot of awful stuff that happens out there. But I've always just been really drawn to it.
Because of the sex, because of the money, or both? Or something else?
Both of it. The sex, the money, the taboo nature of it. I think that the more I've gotten in touch with how my brain works and being neurodivergent, I like the transactional nature of things because it's really fucking clear. Like even sugar dating I did for a long time and it just gets too fucking messy. I want you to pay me for a specific amount of time for us to do a specific number of things. Like I like that. My brain likes that. And so, yeah, if people come to me and ask about it, whatever the form of sex work be, whether it's virtually or not, there's a lot to learn. And I think trying to find some type of mentorship or friend that can even help you a little bit. Like I had somebody help me with getting certain things set up. I would like to touch a bit on, so you started escorting, but then you also did stripping as well. And you had a mentor, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that part of your journey. Was that kind of just like a curiosity since you're already making really good money with escorting, or?
Well, I think for me, it came a time in my career where it made sense for me to get a little more dynamism and for me to diversify my revenue streams.
Okay.
So when I had a handle on my escort business where I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, now it's time to like take on some additional risk and like branch out and like learn other things that I might be good at, might enjoy, might not be good at, whatever. I wanted a bigger experience within the industry.
Cool.
And so I tried camming and I was like, I wasn't bad at camming. I just didn't like it as much. But
I think I'd have the patience.
Well, so like, I'm trying it again in a different way with in a different, like, you know, now I have more experience. I'm trying it from a different angle.
Cool.
But with stripping, I had a totally different experience. So I quite honestly, before I became a stripper, and even now that I am a stripper, I always found strippers like intimidating in a good way. I'm like, they're so cool. They have this like little club, there's a locker room, and like you know, they have like hand signals and shit. Yeah. So
I haven't heard of those.
Yeah, I mean like like they're not universal. Yeah. Or it's like, you know, like sometimes this is like get me a drink or whatever. Like so
this guy fucking sucks, won't give you money.
Yeah, like I mean, there's just I always thought strippers were like badass. And
I love that.
So I was doing some of my financial pro bono work with a stripper organizer, and she was like, well, have you ever considered stripping? And I was like, oh, I don't think I'd be very good at it. And she's like, are you kidding me? You'd be amazing at it. And I was like,
you have to be really strong.
Actually, no.
No? Okay.
Okay. So
that's what I made up.
No, it's not that you made it up. It's just like, again, we have these perceptions of other jobs and industries, right? Like, and they exist for finance. They exist for lots of jobs, right? Yeah. Like, and it's the same way that like there are some sex workers that sell all sex and all kink and all fetish, and there are some sex workers that sell
huge range,
like more experience, conversation, et cetera, right? Like I do Scotch tastings with my clients because I have a Scotch collection.
That.
Yeah, I have a Scotch collection. I know.
Hit her up.
Yeah, I have the Cuban cigars to go with it too. I bought on a farm in Cuba. Anyways.
You are like the golf finance guy's dream. Like it's such a perfectly curated. Great job.
Thank you. Well, you work with what you've got, right? So if you don't have empathy, you're just like, here's my Scotch collection.
And also like business advice, like niche the fuck down. Like what I've learned on social media is if you're trying to talk to a ton of people, you're talking to no one. Like you're speaking to a very specific client and somebody that has a lot of money and it's working. Like,
yeah. And they also like, I genuinely vibe with most of my clients, right? And that helps. It makes my job easier. It makes me better at my job.
Yeah.
I think like if you are, look, not everyone has the privilege of being good at something that makes money, right? So given that I have that fortunate combination, I'm like, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, what was your
talking about stripping.
Stripping. Oh, yeah, stripping.
Yeah. So you were talking with a gal.
So I have a stripper mentor, or I had a stripper mentor. She's retired since from the industry. And I suspect by the time this airs, I will also be retired from stripping. But Taylor, my stripper name, Taylor had a good run, 3 years.
Fun.
Yeah.
And was that like a couple nights a week or?
So it was seasonal.
Oh, okay.
Because I economist everything.
Yes, she does.
So my stripper mentor, so this stripper organizer who I was giving free financial advice to, she was like, you know what? I'm going to introduce you to this girl who's like on her way out of the industry, but she helps everyone. And I'm like, okay, like if you're recommending her, I really appreciate that. And so the learning curve that I had going into escorting was totally different. Like in stripping, I went from like baby stripper to top earner at the club in like 3 weeks because I had an amazing mentor.
Awesome.
And like
what were some of the hacks she gave you? Can you think of any to sped up that process?
I think she just like I watched and learned and asked questions, right?
Yeah.
So she told me what she did, and then she gave me a few tips. I don't remember any of them off the top of my head. One of the funny mistakes that I made, which didn't really cost me any money, but it was just like kind of funny in hindsight. She showed me how to give a lap dance, right? So I gave all of them on the leg that she showed me on, and then the next day I was limping.
You're like, okay, following procedure.
Yeah, it was like she was like, Taylor, I didn't mean do them all on your left leg. And I was like, well, now it's obvious that I'm limping.
That's so funny.
But yeah, so that was kind of one of the funnier things. And then, of course, like I wanted to compensate her for what a wonderful thing she did for me. And she was like, no, don't pay me. And I was like, I'm going to pay this bitch because I'm a boundary pusher. So I walked into the club one day when she was like on stage and there weren't a lot of people there yet. So I was like, hey, like, and I tipped her because like you can't not take the money when you're on stage. Like, what are you gonna do, right? Yeah. So I like stuffed like $500, I think it was at the time, in her bra or like her panties or whatever. And she thought it was like $20. Yeah. And then then she like, you know, like goes to the back of the stage, like pulls it, and she's like, oh my God, this is too much money. So then I was like, hey, you look great. And she's like, she like hides in the back of the stage. She just doesn't want me to give her any more money. So she just like goes to the back of the stage and she like shakes her ass and she's like, no. And I was like, so then the next day I walked into the club and she was like, and she ran away from me on stage because she thought I was going to like stuff more money in her bra. I was like, Frankie, I just got here. I don't even have any money yet. Who walks into a strip club with cash? And she's like, apparently you do.
I totally understand like the desire to be generous. Like I've received that as well in my sex work journey. And it's like, it's really hard to just receive that sometimes because you know that these women have spent so long, you know, perfecting their craft.
Right. I want to show my appreciation.
Yeah. But it seems like both you and I now too are like, we want to give back as well. And like, it's a loop.
And look, I mean, if you really don't want to take the money, donate it, right? Like, but at least I've shown because I believe in showing my appreciation in cash. Like one of the things that like.
Cash is hot. It makes me happy. Turns me on.
But also, like, one of the things that, like, irks me is, like, you know, dudes who are just like, oh, you're so beautiful. And I'm like, am I supposed to take this compliment and, like, pay American Express with it? Fucking pay me, asshole.
Here's my OnlyFans.
Yeah. I'm like, I have a UPay. I have all these things. I'm like, I don't want your fucking compliments. I want your money.
Couldn't agree more.
Like, you don't walk into a coffee shop and compliment their single origin Arabica. Like, you buy the fucking coffee.
How many compliments will it be until I get a free one? Like, yeah, that's why like vanilla dating is just like, it bores me to tears and honestly just leaves me pissed off at men. So,
well, there are ways to systemize that if you want, right? Like, so one of the things that has worked for me, and I don't know that it would work for other people, but when I decided that it was time in my life, my career, that I wanted to find a primary partner, I approached dating and searching for my primary partner like I would job interviews.
Of course she did.
And it worked. I have a wonderful partner, and
That's
he's
amazing.
Like,
and what did that look like? How is that different than like just swiping? And
so I had requirements that I wanted that would allow me to be happy being with this person, right? So basically, I found, just observationally and anecdotally, I've observed that a lot of people, regardless of gender or sexual orientation, they date the opposite way that I date, meaning they develop feelings for someone and then decide whether or not this person meets your, or they try to change the person. Yeah. I go the other way. Like, I'm physically incapable of being attracted to somebody who doesn't check my boxes. So for me, I was like, I want somebody, like, I was looking for, at this point, a male partner. I wanted someone who was like over 5'11". I wanted somebody who had a six-pack. I wanted somebody who made more money than me. I wanted somebody who was self-made. I wanted somebody who was intellectual, multilingual, worldly, did not want children. There were a few other things on the list, but yeah, I found all of it. And someone who was a provider, because like someone can be successful, but maybe they don't see eye to eye with you on money, right?
Right.
Like So I joke with my girlfriend that I'm a misogynist, but I'm not a hypocrite. So like I always want to be financially generous with the women that I date. Like even if I go on a first date and I don't like you, I will still pay. But I also and I always tell my boyfriend, I'm like, don't embarrass me. Like you take a girl on a date, like make sure you offer her a car home. Obviously he's going to pay, like all of these things. So like I was looking for someone who shared those like traditional gender roles, if you will. So, like, my boyfriend is very generous with me. Like, he's chivalrous. He's kind and considerate. And he's also ambitious and intelligent and successful. And he has children from a previous marriage, so he doesn't want any more children. Yeah. And that was very important to me because I never wanted children.
I think it's really great to also normalize having that fucking list. I think most women, whether or not they will admit to it, have a list of check boxes of things that they want. And like, you know, I think some women might be nervous that if they express the height or the body type or the eye color, all these things, that it might come across as vain. But it's like,
I don't
lead with that list, because many of those things will be deal breakers for you. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having the list and knowing what you want. And yeah.
Well, like if you went to a professional matchmaker, they would start with a list. Right?
Totally.
So you're just being inefficient if you're starting without a list.
We love an efficient gal. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Can you tell everyone where they can find you, and specifically, like, I don't know, maybe tell your dream clients what they can come chat with you about?
Oh, gosh. So where you can find me, I'll start with that.
One thing at a
time. So I have my individual and company socials. Okay. So I am Mia Lee NYC on X, Mia Lee _NYC on Instagram. My company is Mia Lee Financial, all one word. Everywhere. So
Great.
Instagram, X. I think my content creator is starting a TikTok.
Awesome.
And I have like all my links and all of my profiles. And
perfect.
Yeah.
Great. And then so let's say there's a sex worker listening that's like, I have some money. I don't know what to do with it. Just go to your website and fill out the form.
So I can't solicit on a public broadcast. However, if you're interested in being an investment client, you can find our website at www.mialeefinancial.com.
Okay.
And there's a pretty painless sign-up process.
Beautiful.
And potential investment clients can also book consults with me if you like, for people who want to get a little more comfortable. So those are $100 for 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I charge for those because I don't want to charge everyone else who's not using the consult. And that's how I keep our fees low.
Great. Love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode today. Be sure to stay in touch with us on socials at Seggs Talk Radio Podcast. That is SEGGS Talk Radio Podcast.